Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going straight into a feeling that I think is, well, it's deeply familiar to a lot of people. It's that constant sense of living month to month. And we're going to look at the source materials you sent over to really understand it. We're not talking about just a feeling, but this structural reality where planning for retirement or even 5 years from now just feels impossible.
Right. And that's the whole mission for this deep dive. Based entirely on the research you provided, we're trying to strip away all the usual judgment around
That
this.
emotional stuff.
Exactly.
Yep.
We're not treating this focus on this month as some kind of psychological failure or a lack of ambition. The sources are really clear on this. They frame it as structure over impression.
So we're ignoring how it feels, whether it's stressful or not, and just looking at it as a mechanism, an output.
Precisely. And when you do that, when you remove the emotional labels, the real question sort of snaps into focus.
Which is,
Where does this very specific, very short time horizon actually come from? Is this a totally new problem, or is this feeling just the visible result of changes that have been brewing in our systems for years?
okay, let's unpack that. It probably helps to set a baseline. I mean, for a long time, the whole idea was long-term planning, 5-year plans, 10-year goals, the whole retirement finish line.
Right. That was the standard model.
So what conditions made that kind of massive long-term thinking even possible back then?
The sources point to three necessary, let's call them calculation conditions, and they all had to be working at the same time. The core insight here is that our planning horizon collapsed because these three pillars all disappeared simultaneously.
Okay, what was the first one?
The first was simply the predictability of living costs. You could reasonably project what housing or healthcare or food would cost in 5 years.
It might go up, but you can calculate the rate of change. It wasn't chaotic.
Exactly, it was calculable.
Yeah.
The second pillar was the stability of systems and institutions, and this one is so important.
You mean trusting that the basic rules wouldn't change, like tax laws, Social Security?
Yes. You had to have faith that those big social contracts, like pensions or whatever, would still be there in a decade or two. That stability is what allowed you to invest your time and your money into those systems.
So the ground beneath your feet felt solid, even if your personal life had its ups and downs.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that leads to the third condition, the gradual fluctuation of income and expenses. Things didn't just spike or collapse without warning. This gradual pace allowed for something the sources call the retrospective narrative.
A retrospective narrative.
Yeah.
That sounds like more than just money. What does that mean?
It means that if you hit a rough patch, you lost your job, you took on debt, you had the time and the stable economic environment to recover, eventually.
You could smooth out the story of your life later on.
You could. That growth, that recovery, could be retrospectively added to your life story. A setback was temporary. You had this underlying faith that the system would let you get back on your feet, maybe even get ahead.
But the point the sources make now is that you can't add that recovery later. Every single move you make has to work right now just to stay afloat.
That's the structural shift. When those three pillars, cost predictability, institutional stability, and gradual change, are all gone, the whole environment you need for long-term planning it evaporates. It's not that people lost the desire to plan. The window for planning was structurally clipped.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. This isn't just about things costing more. It's about the instability itself.
Yes. We've shifted from a manageable problem, which is rising burden, to a totally unmanageable one, simultaneous destabilization.
The core issue isn't just one thing, but that everything became unstable at once.
At the same time, prices, energy, housing, taxes, Social Security, all the fundamental variables of life started moving unpredictably together.
And I think that's the insight that gets lost. If it's just, say, your energy bill that's volatile, but your rent is fixed and your income is stable, you can adapt. You can model a solution.
You can prioritize, you can make a plan. But when all of it is volatile, your energy bill, your groceries, your insurance, even the rules for your job, trying to plan is like trying to build a house in an earthquake during a hurricane.
The minute you solve for one variable, all the others have changed.
Precisely. And in that environment, two things become constant truths for you. First, you literally can't predict next month's total spending. Budgeting becomes a defense mechanism, not a choice.
And the second?
The second is more profound. The basic guarantee that my life will continue at the same standard it's just gone.
So if I can't even predict the cost of my life 90 days from now, then putting money away for something 20 years away starts to look structurally irrational
It becomes a liability risk.
because you might need that money next month just to stabilize things.
It's no longer a rational act. The only viable, defensible strategy in that kind of high volatility environment is to stabilize the current month, the future.
Yeah.
It just stops having a usable meaning for planning. The inputs you need to make a good decision are either missing or they're too chaotic.
And yet, the common narrative you hear is that this is a sign of weakness or that people have lost hope. How do the source materials evaluate that?
Yeah.
Is living month to month an abnormal state?
They're very, very clear on this. Structurally, it is not an abnormal reaction. In fact, it's the complete opposite. They define shortening your time horizon as a rational defensive phase.
A rational defensive phase.
That's
So it's not a failure. It's an intelligent adaptation to a failing environment.
It's a successful adaptation to the math of the situation. And to really visualize this, the sources introduce this really powerful analogy of the life membrane.
The life membrane. Okay, so we're thinking of a person's life, their ability to function as a sort of a cell membrane, holding everything together against outside pressure.
That's it, exactly. If you try to make a 5-year plan with wildly unstable variables, you are guaranteeing failure. The sources say the life membrane will rupture. It's a catastrophic failure.
I see.
So the shift to monthly planning is an adjustment you make specifically to prevent that rupture. It's pure defense.
That makes a lot of sense. But I can almost hear someone thinking, okay, it's a defense, but it's exhausting. Doesn't that defense itself become its own kind of problem over time?
The fatigue is the cost of the defense. But the function is survival. By shrinking your planning world down to a single month, you're only exposed to 30 days of risk at a time, not thousands.
So instead of seeing this as the world is breaking, the structural take is that the world has just shrunk to a manageable size.
For the individual unit, yes. It's a way of saying, I can't control the big picture, but I can stabilize right here, right now.
It's a form of stability, even if it's a very small, very immediate stability. The life membrane isn't collapsing, it's holding its ground by reducing its surface area.
It is holding its ground. And now we can move from that result, the monthly focus, to the actual mechanism causing it. The sources call this mechanism shear.
Shear. So the feeling of living month to month isn't the cause, it's the effect. It's what you feel after the shear has happened. What are these shears?
We're seeing 3 distinct types of life membrane shear happening all at once. They're what pull that long-term horizon apart. First, you have time shear. This is the most direct one. It's simply the point where the long-term loses all operational meaning. Monthly or even weekly units become the only realistic basis for any kind of planning.
Can you give a concrete example of that?
Sure. Timeshare is why someone might take a job with immediate cash flow over a job that promises, better career growth in 5 years. Even if they know the 5-year plan is better, that 5-year horizon has been functionally deleted from their calculator. The only unit of time that matters is the one that covers next month's rent.
Got it. What's the second one?
The second is trust share. This is about what we're even allowed to put our faith in anymore.
So we used to trust in future promises, pensions, institutions, this idea that society was on a steady upward path.
And trust share moves that faith away from those big abstract promises and towards something much more immediate, the reproducibility of the present. The central question stops being, what will I have in 30 years? And becomes, will my life be the same next month? The immediate present is the only thing you can trust, because the future has proven to be unreliable.
That explains why saving for retirement feels so abstract. You're forced to shift resources from future-proofing to just present stabilization.
You have to. And the final one is narrative shear. This one is maybe the toughest to grasp, because you can't retrospectively add recovery anymore. The old linear life story, struggle now for security later, that story becomes impossible to build.
So the whole idea of paying your dues in your 20s so you can have an easy life later, that's just an outdated model.
It's an outdated narrative. Narrative shear means you have to constantly update your own life story, your own meaning, month by month as the conditions change. A career change isn't a pivot toward a better future. It's an emergency adjustment to stop the life membrane from rupturing today.
So if you put the 3 shears together, time, trust, and narrative, it all becomes much clearer. The right question isn't, why do I feel so weak? But which structural shear created this environment? It puts the focus back on the mechanism.
That is the summary position. And by defining it that way, all the usual judgments, weakness, failure, apathy, they have to be removed. The experience is normalized. It's just a necessary result of a system under extreme simultaneous pressure. It's the life membrane doing its job.
Wow. So we've taken this shared, really stressful feeling and found a rational defense mechanism underneath it all. It doesn't offer a solution, but it offers a huge amount of clarity on the rules of the game.
The analysis does what we set out to do. It doesn't affirm or deny the experience, it just normalizes it as a structural fact. We're just observing the machine.
And that observation leads us to the final thought we want to leave you with, building on everything we've talked about today. The question to really sit with is this.
Is it really that people can no longer imagine the future, or is it that the structure they inhabit no longer allows the future to be credibly imagined or planned for?